right, welcome to Be the Shift. This is our 4th episode. So grateful to welcome this beautiful goddess, Brandilyn. Oh, I met this woman and we just had a love at first sight and connection, so radiant. And Brandilyn is an acclaimed transformational coach, founder and host of the Shift Retreats, which hence why we'd love to have her on Be the Shift. Bestselling author and inspirational speaker. She specializes in inner child work, subconscious belief programming, parts work, and internal family systems, and acceptance and commitment therapy. She has traveled the world to teach empowering workshops in high schools, prisons, Fortune 500 companies, and colleges. Today, she coaches clients on how to remove internal barriers and how to really follow their hearts, changing the world and being the fullest expression of themselves. She's the author of the book, The Achievement Trap, which I really want to read, and a columnist for Elephant Journal and Recovery Warriors. She also hosts seminars, transformational, all-inclusive men and women's retreats and online programs. And I know you've had to take a little bit of a step back with the whole pandemic thing, but would love to just kind of hear what Be the Shift means to you as your work as this transformational coach and all that you do.
Yeah, I love that you are working with the name Be the Shift. It's everything to me. It's what I've dedicated my career and my life to, essentially. My transformational retreat company is called The Shift because I feel that there is a fundamental, universal shift that we can go through as humans, where we shift out of fear-based consciousness into love-based consciousness. We shift out of what I call reactive mode into what I call creative mode. And that shift fundamentally is the ability to look at our internal state rather than be at the effect of our internal state. When we're in reactive mode, we are reacting to the judgments that we have, the beliefs that we have, the emotions that are arising, the memories that are arising. We are at the effect of our internal state. And we're giving all of these objects of our awareness, our sensations, our emotions, our thoughts, we're giving those objects power over who we be. That's reactive mode. That's powerlessness. That is being at the effect of reality. Whereas when we shift into creative mode, we've created some degree of space between who we really are and our internal state so that we can look at these objects of our awareness. We can look at our thoughts. We can look at our beliefs, at our judgments, at our emotions. We can look at these different parts of ourselves, especially the wounded parts of ourselves. And we can hold space for all of that without being at the effect of any of that. And only then are we really free to choose who we be. Other than that, we're living a life of reaction. We're not living a life of sovereignty. We're not living a life of free choice. We're not creating our life. We're not creating the world that we want to see. We're not being the change we wish to see in the world. And when we undergo this fundamental shift of creating some degree of space between who we really are, which is this vast, ever-present, spacious, loving awareness in which everything arises, in which the world of form arises, once we go through that shift, then we are returned to our freedom of choice, and we can choose to be love in every moment. We can choose to be curious, forgiving, empathetic, understanding, playful, honest, authentic, vulnerable. We have access to choice. We have access to all of those ways of being. And that is what I think of as the shift. And that's all the work that I do. That's what I teach in my retreats. That's what I teach to my one-on-one clients in my books, and everything that I do, it is an attempt to disseminate the tools that allow for people to access that shift and gain the freedom and peace that lies on the other side of that shift.
So really creating the opportunity to be free to be. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious to share a little bit more about like what got you into this. What's a little bit of your path leading up to even getting at this place to be free to be and teach that to others?
Yeah. Well, I think often the first step in transformation is imprisonment. It's being a slave to ourselves, being a slave to our own minds. and having to experience the pain of that, the suffering of that so viscerally, so deeply that a shift is necessary. There's a certain amount of activation energy that is required to cause that shift, to cause that alchemy process of going from fear-based consciousness to love-based consciousness. And I find that often, in order to have that activation energy, we need to experience a lot of contrast. We need to really suffer. We need to have our noses be rubbed in our own shit in order to have the willingness to do the work to transform it. And for me, I'm lucky that contrast happened really early in my life. I had a very traumatic childhood. I was dealing with lots of different traumas that I won't go into here that essentially left me with an eating disorder. I was hospitalized for anorexia. I had obsessive compulsive disorder. I had obsessive thoughts about death. I had sleep disorder, was completely unable to sleep at night. I was in this prison of my body. I woke up into an inhospitable environment every day. I woke up into a world of shame. I was ashamed of my past. I was ashamed of my trauma. I was ashamed of my sexual assault. I was ashamed of my body. I was ashamed of anywhere in my life that I wasn't achieving and being perfect. And it was this acidic, cold, cruel internal environment within myself that I woke up into every day. And it reached a point where I was either going to be taken out of college and put into inpatient treatment for my eating disorder, which would mean giving up my position in student council, giving up my position as president of the club that I started, giving up all of these accolades and achievements that I'd worked so hard for. Or I had the option to figure my shit out and pull myself through and learn the tools that I needed to learn to stop being at war with myself, stop avoiding and running from my traumas, stop numbing out and dissociating from my body, and actually deal with the pain that needed to be felt and worked through. And I wasn't willing to let go of everything that I had going for myself. So I chose the path of figuring it out on my own. And all at once, I got into therapy for the first time, and my therapist initiated me on my spiritual path. I did a personal and professional growth program that I went really deep with for 7 months and radically transformed my life. I discovered the work of Byron Katie. I discovered somatic healing. I discovered nonviolent communication, neurolinguistic programming, parts work, acceptance and commitment therapy, and I became a transformational junkie. I went as hard as I could learning about all of these modalities that help us to liberate ourselves, and applied it to myself on a daily basis. And through that process and through the mentorship and support that I was receiving at that time, I was able to access a kind of inner peace and freedom that I never thought was possible. Like, before all of this work, I truly believed that that was just how life was. Like, I would wake up every morning thinking about how much I would need to deprive myself of calories in order to lose more weight, even though I was already starving myself. Like, I just thought that that was going to be the rest of my life. I thought every day I'd feel shame about my past and about my body. And applying these tools to myself and discovering, oh my God, that's not at all how it has to be. I can live a life of total freedom and choice. I can live a life that I create, not as a reaction to my past, but a life that I create from nothing, from inspiration, from love. And after I discovered that for myself, I wanted to just shout it from the mountaintops and tell everybody, it doesn't have to be this way. Life doesn't have to be this way. There's another option, and you have what it takes to initiate yourself. You have what it takes to cause this transformation for yourself. And it's so beautiful on the other side of that shift. It's so beautiful. And I just knew that I wanted to dedicate the rest of my life to spreading these tools that made such a difference for me as far and wide as I possibly could. And I started coaching, I started my retreat business, I started writing, and it's just gained momentum ever since. And I've never stopped immersing myself in transformational tools. It's my favorite thing.